Rick Ness and his crew are racing against time to reach the gold-rich pay layer buried deep in Vegas Valley. With the season nearing its end, every hour counts, and the team is pushing their limits to move thousands of tons of overburden. But as the workload increases, tensions rise, particularly between Rick and his foreman, Buzz Legault. This season is do or die for Rick. Having invested every dollar of the crew's profits back into the operation, he has no safety net. The team needs to reach pay dirt fast if they want any chance of a financial return. Earlier in the season, a $900,000 gold haul from Raleigh Valley gave them hope, but now, in Vegas Valley, they face an even steeper challenge. The goal is to reach the rich gold deposits 210 feet below the surface, and with winter approaching, they have no time to waste. At nearly 100 feet down, they are just past the halfway mark, but the deeper they dig, the more grueling the process becomes. To speed things up, Rick makes the call to add a fourth rock truck. This move increases their ability to transport dirt by an additional 3,600 tons per day, potentially cutting weeks off their digging time. However, it also means shifting crew members around, and that's where the trouble begins. Buzz Legault, a seasoned excavator operator, finds himself reassigned to a rock truck. It's a decision he doesn't take lightly. Driving a rock truck isn't a glamorous job, and for someone with Buzz's experience, it feels like a demotion. But in a small crew like Rick's, everyone must take on multiple roles to keep the operation running. Buzz isn't happy about being in a rock truck, but if we're going to make this work, everyone has to step up and do what's necessary, Rick explains. If you're going to complain, you might as well go home. Buzz's frustration is apparent. He doesn't say much, but his body language speaks volumes. He grumbles about the rough, uneven haul road and the constant jolting inside the truck. At one point, he radios in to say that his phone keeps detecting an emergency because of the constant shaking. Rick acknowledges the issue and assigns him to reinforce the road with an excavator. Though reluctant, Buzz does the job, spreading coarse rocks to stabilize the surface. Yet, his dissatisfaction doesn't fade. Last season, my position was clear. I was handling key operations. Somehow, this season, that's been forgotten, Buzz says, venting his frustrations after finishing his task. He walks away, visibly upset. We'll see how it holds up when the rock trucks start rolling over it. For now, I'm done. A boiling point, the sleeping incident. As the day progresses, the crew notices something unusual. Buzz is missing. Has anyone seen Buzz? Rick asks over the radio. It takes some time, but they eventually find him sleeping inside a machine. This isn't the first time it's happened. Last season, the team overlooked Buzz's midday naps because he was working as early as 4:30 a.m. But this time, things are different. He isn't putting in the extra hours, and now, his decision to sleep while the rest of the crew struggles to keep up is beginning to cause resentment. Rick has had enough. He confronts Buzz over the radio, his voice laced with frustration. For the love of, just stop sleeping. Everyone else is exhausted too, but they're in their machines, working their asses off. Meanwhile, you're sleeping right in front of everyone. What kind of message does that send? How do you expect people to respect or listen to someone who's sleeping on the job all day? There's a long pause before Buzz finally responds. His voice is quiet but firm. I'm just done caring. I'll do what I have to, but when this season ends, I'm walking away. Buzz out. Buzz's words linger over the radio. The tension is thick, and for a moment, no one knows what to say. Rick exhales sharply, rubbing his face. This was not the conversation he wanted to have, but it was one that needed to happen. Later, in a more private setting, Rick approaches Buzz to clear the air. He acknowledges the tough situation they're all in and tries to get Buzz to understand the bigger picture. I need you, man. These guys need your help. We have a small crew, and we have to work hard, stay tight, and keep pushing forward if we want to make this season a success." Buzz looks away for a moment, then nods. "Yeah, I get it. We just need to communicate better." Rick sighs. "No communication? I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. just to have a meeting with you. And if you think I'm sending you flowers, forget it. But if we're on the same page, then let's get back to work." Despite the tension, there's a mutual understanding. They don't have to like the situation, but they do have to get through it together. The stakes are too high to let disagreements derail their mission. With the confrontation settled, for now, the crew gets back to work. The fourth rock truck is running, the road has been repaired, and they continue moving dirt at a relentless pace. Yet, the season is far from over, and the cracks in the team's morale are starting to show. Rick knows that as much as they need equipment and strategy, they also need cohesion. If the crew falls apart, no amount of gold will be enough to salvage the season. As the days pass, everyone watches and waits. Can they hold it together long enough to strike the pay dirt before time runs out? Buzz, Rick's foreman and a highly skilled operator, has found himself relegated to driving a rock truck for much of the season. It's a job he clearly resents. Used to handling bigger responsibilities, Buzz has been vocal about his frustration, and his dissatisfaction has become obvious to the entire team. His work ethic, once one of the strongest on the crew, has waned, and his lack of enthusiasm has not gone unnoticed. Rick had been aware of the tension for some time, but as the pressure to hit pay dirt intensified, he knew it was time to address the issue head-on. Rather than let resentment continue to simmer, he decided to confront Buzz directly. Pulling him aside on the Hall Road, Rick made it clear that the current situation couldn't continue. He pointed out that everyone on the team was exhausted, not just Buzz. What made things worse was that Buzz's attitude was dragging down morale. It wasn't just about the work. Buzz's habit of dozing off in the truck while others pushed through grueling shifts had sent the wrong message. Rick needed him to step up, not check out. Buzz, however, didn't take the criticism lightly. He pushed back, expressing his frustration at how his role had changed. He had been there from the start, invested in the project, yet he felt sidelined and underappreciated. To him, driving a rock truck wasn't what he had signed up for, and he resented how his position had shifted. Rick, keeping his cool, explained that the decision wasn't meant to diminish Buzz's importance. On the contrary, he had placed Buzz in that role because he needed a reliable operator who could handle multiple responsibilities. The crew had to function as a unit, adapting to whatever the operation demanded. Rick reminded him that mining success didn't come from titles or preferred jobs, it came from doing whatever was necessary to keep the pay dirt moving. If Buzz couldn't accept that, then there wasn't much left to discuss. The tension between them lingered, and for a moment, it seemed like Buzz might walk away. He muttered about the possibility of leaving, clearly frustrated. But rather than let the conversation spiral into an argument, Rick shifted his tone. He acknowledged that despite the conflicts, Buzz had always been a key part of the team. His skills and experience were invaluable, and losing him now would hurt the entire operation. What he needed from Buzz wasn't resentment but commitment. Buzz took a deep breath, considering Rick's words. He admitted that communication had been lacking and that some of his frustration stemmed from not knowing where he truly stood in the operation. Rick cracked a rare smile, lightening the mood. He joked that while he wasn't one for early morning heart-to-hearts or sending flowers, he was willing to make sure they kept an open line of communication moving forward. The small moment of humor broke the tension, and Buzz finally relaxed. He agreed that they needed to move forward and focus on finishing the season strong. The conversation ended with a handshake, a simple yet significant gesture. Rick gave Buzz a reassuring slap on the back, reminding him that there was still a lot of work to do. If he ever needed another pep talk, Rick joked, he'd have to wait until dinner. With the tension finally diffused, the team could refocus on what mattered most, reaching the pay dirt before time ran out. For Rick, The moment was a reminder that mining wasn't just about digging gold from the ground. It was about leadership, about knowing when to push and when to pull back. His crew was his biggest asset, and keeping them together was just as critical as any piece of machinery. As the season approached its final stretch, one thing was clear: teamwork and resilience would determine their success. And with Buzz back on board, Rick's crew had a renewed chance to end the season on a high note. From the start of the season, Rick Ness was confident he had assembled the right team to achieve success. Every mining operation relies on skilled hands, but Rick understood early on that keeping his crew motivated and cohesive was just as crucial as having the right equipment. Now, as the season nears its end, the team has reached a pivotal moment, not just in their pursuit of gold, but in maintaining the unity that has kept them moving forward.